I used to play Minecraft survival games, Roblox Capture the Flag, and Call of Duty Black Ops for the Wii very seriously. However, I never remember having a single fond memory of these games despite having spent so much time on them, because, well, they were trash. Fast forward 6 years. League of Legends, Overwatch, Fortnite. I have sunk hundreds of hours into these games. Significantly less so for Fortnite though, because it's actually just cancer, and it's the same story. I absolutely hate these games, even though I still spend a good amount of time playing them. This might just be my problem because I don't have any friends in these games or only fun in groups. But then why is there a huge solo queue community for every competitive team-based game that also hates the game, but continues to slog through it for no apparent reason? Well, I am not here to answer those questions. I am here to complain about everything wrong with competitive team-based games and talk about why they are all stinking cesspools of misery and hate where every time I dive into them, leave me feeling significantly more empty and hateful towards all of my fellow mankind. First off, plopping a bunch of random people into a match together that have nothing in common other than a number that roughly estimates their ability to play the game doesn't work. Everybody is going to be on different pages every single time. Somebody is going to be the weakest link. People are going to ignore group chat, and inevitably, there will be tilting and raging because some people just enjoy cyberbullying kids that are worse than them at the game. But hey, maybe you just get off on watching the chat explode after you pretend to AFK in base. To each their own. But my goal here is to have you put down the Overwatch in Fortnite whenever your friends aren't there, because in solo queue, nobody ever wins. I mean, actually, someone does always win, but that brings me to my next point. Even the best players of a game usually never have a win rate of over 60% because someone always must win in any given match. Pros have just played enough to be able to min-max their playstyle to win more than not. So, even though skill is involved when it comes to things like positioning and aiming, if you can manage to win 51% of all of your games, then you will eventually become a high-tier player no matter what. Competitive games are literally just a grind in order to gain higher levels, and no one match is ever going to make or break your experience alone. So all you have to do is pick a good character, play safe, yell at people who don't play safe, and then all of your dreams will come true. Unless of course your game has roles in it, in which case good luck when everybody chooses playing the flashy character and dying with them repeatedly over thinking about team composition and then winning. If a game has roles, the developers are going to have to make a tough decision when designing their queuing system. Will they let the players choose what they're going to do after or before queuing up? Allowing people to pre-choose what they want to do allows them to have fun and not have to deal with as much arguing in-game because nobody can insta-lock and nobody can force others to use an unbalanced team composition. However, usually nobody wants to support in any game ever, since they are always the ones who get treated like trash because healing doesn't kill enemies. Go figure. This leads to long wait times for games as the small pool of supports and tanks has to be mashed up with the giant lake of people that want to be ninjas like in their Naruto comics. In the end though, the swill that we call humanity makes both of these options trash when you compare the options of either having all of your teammates be snipers or having to wait 10 minutes for a match. But even in both of these cases, there's still no good option for punishing trolls or people who go AFK. When you start a match for a game that is going to take upwards of the next 10 minutes off of your life, having someone just leave because they either care less about the game than you and went to go eat with their families when dinner started, instead of yelling for a grilled cheese from the basement like you do, or disconnect because they forgot that their potato clock was in a gaming PC, is one of the most disheartening things imaginable. I mean, other than having your parents tell you that they don't love you, but you've grown numb to them saying that by now, haven't you? But what do you do when someone leaves? Well, obviously you slap the lever with a hefty punishment like minus 10 good boy points and 5 minutes in the timeout corner. But what about the people who are still in-game? Do you give them a buff for being down a player? Do you not count it as a loss for them? Well, the problem with these options comes in when something called voice chat is put into a game. Because when this feature is implemented alongside a very good reason to make people want to leave the match, a new side quest starts called cyberbullying, where the main point is to make the smallest kid on your team feel so bad about themselves that they leave the game and then go tell their moms on you. Now, in a chess match, you can calculate every single move that you make, replay these moments, and then see exactly what went wrong and what you should have done better. That doesn't happen in matches with a bunch of other people that you've never met before, because when your glass cannons all run into the fray before your tanks can initiate, when your supports run after low health enemies until they get baited and killed, when somebody on your team plays the worst character in the entire game. You're not really going to be thinking much about how to improve your individual gameplay when these types of things are going on. Sure, positioning is important and landing a shot can sometimes mean the difference between winning and losing a game. But if you're a surgeon and are about to perform a heart transplant using a Fisher-Price dining set, your main priority isn't going to be making the most precise cut possible above the lateral artery. It's going to be removing the plastic chicken wing from this man's rib cage. And in terms of balanced gameplay, a lot of high and low level games are always going to be affected by smurfs and boosting because there isn't really a way around it. Frankly, I have no idea how the term smurfs went from meaning blue gnomes that can be made into soup, to blue gnomes that can be made into gold bars, to a series of terrible live-action animated movies, to another set of children's show characters to make inflation porn of, to someone that plays at a high level in a game and then makes a separate account to boost a friend or just to make new players feel like trash. But we got there eventually. From a developer's standpoint, there is no real way to stop smurfing and boosting because there's no real way to tell if someone is the same person that's just using a different email. And if you end up with some boosted animal in your game, there isn't a real way around the problem other than making up for him being trash by being spectacular. But the counter to having a smurf on the enemy team would be good team coordination. But again, that's kind of hard to pull off when your group is full of random people who are listening to My Little Pony dubstep mixes instead of being in voice chat. And finally, the largest source of complaints that players of a game always make is that buffs and nerfs are always few and far between for the characters that they enjoy or hate, and when they do come out, they're always horrible. But here's the thing. The developers of the game are only human, and they probably have to spend a ton of time to even get a small adjustment to the game added due to all the levels of hierarchy that are in these kinds of companies. But that being said, yes, most of the higher-ups that could easily implement changes are probably dumber than one of the girls from Flavor Flav's Flavor of Love that ran 3 seasons from January 2006 to May 2008. But hey, I mean, some characters in a game are always going to be better than others just because of their moveset. And if you want to win in solo queue, you're going to have to either play the best characters or get flamed. Or even when you play the better characters, you'll still probably get flamed too. So I mean, just don't play solo queue. That's right. I'm saying in video games, just don't ever play solo queue. That is my one lesson for you today. And if you're sitting there saying, so do you expect me to just not play Overwatch and League of Legends because I don't have any friends that play it too? The answer is yes. Yes, that is what I'm saying. This might be an oxymoron, but playing a competitive team-based game by yourself is pointless. There's no real gratification in it apart from maybe when you've sunk such a ridiculous amount of time into the game that you finally change ranks. But that's not even really a part of the actual gameplay in the end. There are better things that you can do with your time other than waste it. This is going to sound trite, but maybe just go read a book. Get a hobby like collecting Indian children or knitting sweaters. Play a single-player game. Or maybe even go interact with your friends in a game that they play, or try to get them involved in a game that you enjoy so that you don't have to suffer through solo queue anymore. Now you can both suffer through duo queue together. Just make sure that you don't scare them off when they aren't as good as you, and you start prioritizing your 5th level Grandmaster rank over your friendship with someone. You'd be surprised, but this actually happens a lot more often than you'd think. But if you can take anything away from this video, even if you continue to play solo queue, if that game ever frustrates you to the point that you don't want to play anymore, please don't go back to it a week later because you've already sunk so much time and maybe even money into the game. It's the same principle as the lottery, but I can assure you that spending an extra $100 on tickets after you have already used $1,000 isn't going to increase your enjoyment any more than it was when you left.